This video is sponsored by me. Read my original novel, Dance of Frozen Death. Link in the description. Greetings, fellow mortals. I never would have thought that I would find one of my favorite shows ever made during a random week in March without any build-up or hype for it at all. I saw zero advertisement for this series. No one that I knew in real life was actually talking about it. I probably wouldn't have even known about this Korean drama / thriller if I hadn't been specifically looking for a series at the right time. I recently finished Because This Is My First Life, and I wanted a new K-drama to replace it. At first, I wanted a heartwarming series, so I did a search and saw that The Glory was in the top 10 shows on Netflix. Instead of a happy story though, I got something completely different. In many ways, The Glory is the opposite of a heartwarming story. It's violent, sexual, and oozes in dismay. The entire time that I was watching it, I got flashbacks to how I felt during Better Call Saul Season 6. I felt nervous the entire time. I expected everything to fall apart eventually, both in the series universe and in the show as, a show. Both of my worries were dead wrong though. The Glory proved to be close to perfection for me, and I would recommend it to anyone who can handle the extreme content put on display.
Oh, beautiful.
Except that is a major problem. I don't think I can go around and recommend the show to everyone in my life. The first episode shows the most intense and brutal school bullying I have ever seen. It is very hard to watch. In fact, my wife had to look away many times, and she got angry at me for making her experience this, and I didn't really blame her for her reaction. The violence on display is gratuitous. It made me wish that they did a little bit more tell instead of show in this series. Seriously, it is really, really intense. They showed everything so that it was permanently branded in my head just as much as Moon Dong-un is physically branded by her harasser's assaults. And I could make a similar complaint for the domestic abuse and the, how do I say this on YouTube without this video getting completely destroyed by the algorithm? Unforgivable, unconsensual acts done to sobbing women. Yeah, I guess that's how I have to put it. Because apparently this entire platform is messed up to the point that I can't even condemn acts of pure evil, but yeah, those things are on full display to an uncomfortable degree. So if you cannot handle that, stay away from The Glory. No judgment from me at all.
Okay. Well, that's just an opinion.
But if you can handle this content, then The Glory is a perfect set of 16 one-hour episodes, with only a few stumbles when I didn't really understand a few scenes because of cultural differences. But you know what? That's not on Korea, that's on me. It's their art. I'm not going to criticize that aspect of it because this is a masterpiece of writing, cinematography, and acting. My God, these actors were so perfect in everything that they did. Just for the sake of clarity here, I suck at saying Korean names. I struggle enough with English names as it is, and I stumble all the time with Japanese and Spanish. I'll say Moon Dong-un's name because she earned that. If I tried to say everyone's name, I would get like 500 takes out of this, and I am not going to do that. So I'm going to address the main antagonists, how I address them in my head throughout the series. Tattoo, artist, flight attendant, mullet, and the main unforgivable needs to rot in hell. The premise of the show is pretty simple, even if the events throughout the series gets complicated. The 5 bullies tortured Miss Moon so badly in high school that they ruined her life and shattered her mind. Dong-un spends 18 years preparing to get revenge on them. She's determined to ruin each of their lives in the most ironic ways possible. Miss Moon doesn't want to kill them, she wants to see them turn on and kill each other. And she is terrifying. Moon Dong-un is a brilliant woman with a calculating mind. Her stares are some of the most unnerving and terrifying things I've ever seen. Her determination is unbendable, but she is a vulnerable woman. This isn't a person that could physically hurt anyone. In fact, we see her crumble several times when her PTSD overwhelms her. As such, she has to use cunning, intelligence, and her understanding of people to take down her enemies. It's especially terrifying when she appears behind people from out of nowhere. She's like if Gustavo Fring and Batman had a child together.
Where are you?
One of the things that helps the audience sympathize with Moon so much is how evil and irredeemable her enemies actually are. It is constantly shown that each of the antagonists are never going to change and will hurt people until they're stopped. Nothing about them is sympathetic or likable. Normally, I would think of this as a negative criticism. Usually, I want to relate or understand a villain in some way, yet I never lost interest in wanting to see these people punished. For some reason, these embodiments of pure evil work for this story, and there's no one single reason why. The first factor is that the actors did a perfect job with their roles. Another reason is how internally consistent each of these narcissists actually are with their goals and desires. Plus, Korean shows rarely feature so many people with no redeeming qualities whatsoever, so it's refreshing in these circumstances. Finally, I think that the show captures the feeling of helplessness in the face of hateful people and harassment. Everyone has been bullied and felt helpless before. This show brings those feelings out and gives you the power fantasy of revenge. So it pulled off these unlikable, awful villains in a way that I don't think American entertainment has in a long time.
Don't say revenge. Don't say revenge. Revenge?
And that brings me to what's probably going to be the most controversial part of the entire show, the messaging. While everyone already knows that desiring and acting out revenge isn't healthy, this show makes it look amazing and as satisfying as all hell. It's like old cigarette commercials brought back to life. And the revenge is sweet in this story. You could argue that it's almost romanticized, that it encourages the eye for an eye mentality, that it might give people the wrong idea in their own lives, but you know what? Forget that nonsense. This was awesome. This is not a show for children or anything. This is a show for adults. We can enjoy a good power fantasy revenge story. We are shown suffering that most of us can't even begin to comprehend. The villains just won't stop. The cycle of pain will continue. There will be more victims. So you know what? Let's delight in revenge this one time. Let's enjoy the fact that a piece of entertainment doesn't chastise us for wanting someone to pay for wronging others. And it's not like the show demonstrates that it is a good thing for the victims to obsess over revenge for such a long period of time. It is shown to be the exact opposite, that it eats away at them mentally, physically, and spiritually. But they are in so much mental pain and trauma that they can't overcome it unless they see the evildoers brought to justice. So let's just take a minute to fantasize paying back what's owed to people who have used their power and influence to do terrible things to others. I'll take this over being chastised by my entertainment any day of the week.
You're horrible. You're an irredeemable monster.
What took you so long, idiot?
One thing that I love the most about the episodes is the pacing. This is not a slow show. I just came off a few slow burns myself, so this is almost like whiplash. Everything that happens is important. Characters are constantly making decisions that alter the tale. At the start of the show, I had to rewind several times because I missed something important. I had to let the series train me to pay attention to everything at all times and to never turn away. So it's different than Better Call Saul in that regard. Breaking Bad shows and movies are slow burns. This is an inferno that rages for 16 straight episodes and never lets up. I was never bored, and the writers did a great job clarifying everything that happened. All of my questions were answered at the perfect time. Characters who had been missing for a while arrive right when I start to wonder where they are. Not to mention that the cliffhangers always got me between episodes. Something major always happened that influenced what's going to occur next in the story. And these cliffhangers are not just teases, they're important events which will continue the storyline. I always wanted to keep going to the next episode, and I never felt like the show let me down.
That's it? That's the last episode? That was just a bunch of cheap walk cycles! What a rip!
While I think that Moon Dong-eun steals the show to the point of being one of my new favorite characters ever, all of the supporting characters were amazing as well. The Doctor was just as terrifying as Miss Moon and had an equally compelling storyline. The spy helper Mrs. Kang was perfection personified, especially when it came to her daughter. And the CEO husband had me guessing the entire time what his motives truly were and what he wanted out of all of this. I will remember each of these people until the end of time. With something this amazing, I feel somewhat conflicted. I want everyone to experience the story, but I also don't want it to be touched by people who will call it overrated. I want it to be recognized, but I don't want mainstream polarizing personalities to bring their hot takes into this. I stand at a crossroads of wanting to gatekeep and wanting to force everyone to watch this show Clockwork Orange style, especially writers who could learn a thing or two from the amazing Moon Dong-eun. Overall, The Glory is going to go down as one of the best television shows I have ever watched. It's up there with Better Call Saul, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and The Good Place. And maybe The Shield and The Sopranos. I don't know about those two. I go back and forth with them. But what do you think? Am I completely off base here? Did you watch The Glory? Did you think that it was as good as I thought? Could you get past the harsh parts? Please leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your perspectives. And thank you so much for watching. If you like my takes on storytelling, please consider reading my original novel, Dance of Frozen Death, Book 1 in the Written in Stone series, link in the description, and my second book, Above Heaven, will be released on May 1st, 2023. I hope that you will check them both out. I appreciate you. Do not despair.